is the groupby function, which allows users to group data based on specific criteria, enabling a deeper understanding of dataset characteristics. In today's episode, we'll touch on advanced groupby concepts as well as an introduction to the Pandas pivot table method. Get ready, buckle up, and let's go. Welcome back for another episode of PyPod Chronicles. Welcome to PyPod Chronicles, a series that brings our tech blog to life in a whole new way. Covering an array of topics surrounding Python and tech, from programming tips, best practices, and so much more. Let's get immersed in Python with the Nerd Nook on the go. Before I dive into today's episode, you can get my handcrafted Python and Git PDF starter pack absolutely free. It's the first link in the description. In that link is also all my free resources I have available to you guys. So head on down there, check out the content, and get your free copy of my handcrafted Python guide. To kick things off, we need to talk about the basics of Pandas and grouping. And if you've missed the previous episodes, tune back to the last few, as we've been going through this mini data analytics series. Now we know that Pandas simplifies data analysis tasks by giving a pretty decent tool set, right? And the groupby function is a key component within this tool set. It allows users to categorize data, and as we go through the basics of Pandas and data analytics, it's crucial to understand the syntax, but also the parameters that we can give the groupby function. So let me kick things off with a basic question. What is groupby? Groupby is a tool for splitting data into groups based on a specific criteria. This criteria could be a column, it could be a series of columns, or it could even be a function. Once the data is grouped, then various operations can be applied to each group independently. You could group anything in your data set. So imagine you have, a bunch of data of people, right? You could group them by age, gender, class, country, anything like that. You could group your data, and then you could ask questions on those specific groups. Now, something that's really cool is the groupby function has what's called the by parameter, and the by parameter is at the heart of the function. This is really what I want to dive into today's episode, and it allows us to do more with this function because it determines the basis for grouping the data. Whether it's a single column or a combination of columns, this parameter, this by parameter, it dictates the grouping criteria. So let's talk about the by parameter. To fully grasp the concept, I need to introduce this parameter. Now, consider a scenario where we want to analyze sales data by region. Okay, so I could use the groupby function, and then I could insert the by parameter, and I could say region. Now, if we only have one grouping column, right, I don't need the by parameter, okay? You can just put that inside the groupby method, okay? But when I want to group by multiple columns, then I do want to use the by parameter because the by parameter can take a list as the argument. So in more complex situations, grouping by multiple columns might be necessary. Hierarchical indexing comes into play, allowing users to create intricate groupings for a more deeper analysis. This is the real power of the groupby method. Now imagine your group by data, you could group both by product and by region. This provides a more detailed breakdown, and the capability of this is invaluable when dealing with complex datasets where multiple criteria influence the grouping structure. Now that we grouped by a data, imagine you want to aggregate data within groups. So suppose you want to calculate the total sales and average price for each product category. Now I could use the groupby function, give a category, but I'm going to combine that with the built-in aggregation functions, like sum or mean. Now, aggregation, I could give a dictionary, so I could, as the key, I could put the column, and then as the value, I could put the function that I want to apply on the column. So for example, my key, I could say price, and then the value, I could say mean. So I'm going to get the mean price for category. And what's really cool is we can use aggregate to apply the built-in Python functions, but then you can create and apply your own custom functions. For scenarios where built-in aggregation functions fall short, custom functions come to the rescue. Define and apply functions tailored to your specific requirements, adding a layer of flexibility to your data analysis. Now, you could use the aggregate method, but when it comes to readability, I tend to prefer the apply method, as I can clearly see that I created a function to be applied to my data. Now, I did tell you guys in the intro that we were going to explore pivot tables. The groupby function excels at grouping data, but Pandas offers an alternative for a multi-dimensional analysis. This is what we call the pivot table. A pivot table is a data summarization tool that reshapes and aggregates data based on user-defined criteria. It allows for a dynamic rearrangement of data, and it makes it easier to analyze and derive insights from our data. Firstly, let's address some differences between groupby and pivot tables. The key difference lies in the presentation of the results of our analysis. If you are filtering and cleaning your data, then groupby is probably what you need. If you are not going to plot your data, but you need a quick, easy visualization, then I tend to lean towards pivot table. As it displays in our terminal, it's not a plot, but it makes it much easier to read our data. To create a pivot table, it's a pretty straightforward process. Okay, we can just apply the pivot table method. Inside there, it's going to take a bunch of arguments, but the first argument is really what is your data. So that's your data frame. Okay, you can give it a values parameter. So your values could be sales, your index, and your columns, as well as any functions, aggregation functions you want to apply to your pivot table. So we talked about groupby, talked about pivot table, do some research, but let me talk about some use cases for pivot tables. Now, pivot tables shine in scenarios involving, as I said, multidimensional data. Their ability to handle complex data sets and provide a clear structure for analysis makes them an indispensable tool for us. So like analyzing multidimensional data, like consider a data set where sales information across regions, products, and time. A pivot table can really quickly organize this data, giving you a really comprehensive view of the sales performance across the region. And I could use pivot tables to visualize my insights, enhancing data presentations for stakeholders by incorporating visualizations derived from these tables. Graphs and charts offer a visual representation of complex data relationships. This is like the next step in analysis. Like once I'm done with VS Code or Jupyter, right? Once I'm done cleaning, filtering, and answering my basic questions with Pandas, I would probably create a pivot table, check my findings. Once we've done this, in the next step, it'll be time for the real visualization, so like matplotlib or plotly. Let's bring today's episode to a close. In this comprehensive episode, I explored the fundamental concepts of grouping in Pandas using the groupby function and the advanced capabilities provided by the by parameter. Additionally, we dove into the dynamic world of pivot tables, and I showcased their ability to reshape and aggregate data for meaningful insights. Pandas continues to be a go-to library for me, but it's huge in data analysis. So most data analysts will use Pandas as well. And mastering these grouping and pivot table techniques will set you ahead in the game. Now, before I leave you guys, I will touch on a few questions in case you missed them. The main purpose of the groupby function is used to split data into groups based on a specific criteria, facilitating independent operations on each group. And the groupby also has the by parameter, which allows for a more flexible grouping by specific criteria, enabling for a more detailed data breakdown. Pivot tables provide a dynamic way to reshape and aggregate your data. This makes it easier to analyze. And yes, you can apply multiple custom or aggregation functions within your pivot table. How can you further explore these guys? Practice. Read more of my articles. Listen to more episodes. Go on YouTube. There are endless tools for you guys. Remember, you can get my handcrafted Python and Git starter pack to kickstart your Python journey. It's the link in the description, as well as all my free online resources I have available for you guys today. Well, guys, I can't wait to see you guys in next week's episode. Until then.